Awesome. My name is Anushree Mainthia. I am a principal product manager at AWS.
My name is Tyler Strand. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a startup called AIR.
Morning. I'm Nini. I am a senior product manager at Amazon Bedrock, and with my colleague Anushree.
To you about how to work with multimodal content and what type of multimodal solutions that AWS has. Nini and Tyler will be helping kind of share that story, but we're really excited to have you all here today. So before we get started, I want to get a quick show of hands. How many of y'all deal with some sort of multimodal content? Images, video, documents, just show of hands as part of your function. Awesome. What we're going to do is how many people with documents? Okay. Video and images, media content, audio, call centers, that kind of thing, conversations. Okay. And how about all of them? And you have to figure out how to manage and deal with all of them. Got it. Awesome. It's a challenging problem. So what we're going to do today, there's going to be about 4 things we're going to do. First, we're going to talk about what that multimodal content challenge is, and y'all are very familiar with it given almost everyone in the audience is dealing with some sort of content. Then we're going to talk about what Amazon Bedrock data automation is and how it aims to solve and resolve those challenges. Then Tyler from AIR is going to tell us about their journey through how they manage multimodal content. And finally, Nini will share a few of the launches we've had and kind of what's new and what's going on. So let's hop into the multimodal content challenge. These numbers you're probably familiar with. If you're reading the screen, you're probably experiencing deep pain when you think about these things. But one of the biggest problems is 80% of content is unstructured data. It's unstructured multimodal content, whether it's in images or documents or videos or audio files that you have. And for any process that you're trying to build a solution for, say intelligent document processing, you're gonna have to figure out how to get those insights into a usable format to power your downstream applications. And unfortunately, only 20% of organizations right now are able to take advantage of that scale. Why is it particularly hard? There's a couple reasons. So one, there's an incredibly large diversity of different types of multimodal content, both across modalities. So for insurance claims, you're dealing with documents, you're dealing with forms that have been filled in, you're dealing with videos, you're dealing with pictures of a car crash, for example. You're managing all those different types of formats and files across modalities and even within modality. Within documents, a single organization could be managing 300 different types of documents, all which require different schemas. Then you have the additional challenge of how are you going to get the accuracy you need at scale? And that's the biggest challenge, is you're not dealing with one document here or a video there. You're dealing with hundreds of thousands, millions of these types of content that you need to process at scale efficiently. And so how do you get that accuracy? It's a challenge. And how do you get that auditability so that way you can go back and figure out exactly what is being used to generate insights, especially if they're Gen AI derived? There's a lack of standardized tooling, which means you have to learn multiple services, multiple interfaces. And finally, and this is kind of one of the most painful, I think the unsung heroes, is you have to put it all together. You have to do the transformations, you have to mesh all that data together. Do you guys know this in terms of it is incredibly challenging to do that, and it's time consuming and it's tedious. So what have we done to try and help solve that and make it just a little bit easier? Well, hopefully a lot of you guys know what Bedrock Data Automation is. If you don't, I'll introduce it to you. So Bedrock Data Automation is our way that we want to help with multimodal content. Imagine a single API that allows you to process images, documents, video, and audio. And basically what you do is you tell BDA what you want, and we'll walk through how that works. And BDA does it for you. You don't have to figure out the orchestration. You don't have to figure out which FM you're going to use. You don't have to figure out how to route things from one place to the other. All you have is a single API. You can send any modality through it, specify the output you want, and BDA generates it for you. In terms of what this means, it's simpler from an implementation perspective, especially as you move towards more and more multimodal use cases. In a previous era, you'd have documents run through one pipeline and videos run through one pipeline. You can have them run through a same pipeline now. if the output is driving the same business process. So that becomes much simpler because you're interacting and you're creating that integration with one service. BDA also allows you to tailor your output and allows that customization. So you're able to define your own schema. If you have a downstream system, some sort of database that you have these 7 columns, you can define those, you can specify your normalizations, transformations, all of that through BDA. And again, BDA just does it for you. And finally, BDA provides things like confidence scores, grounding in the actual assets, whether it's exactly on the page and the page number, where in the conversation. So that way, if you have something that's an inferred insight, you know exactly what was used to derive that insight. If there are 3 inputs used to calculate one thing, it'll show you exactly what that is. That allows you to have easier human-in-the-loop reviews, auditability, to be able to more efficiently create your applications. So what use cases can you use BDA for? Because an API is great, but it's going to power something, right? So there are 5 use cases that we see customers typically using with BDA. The first is one that you would expect, intelligent document processing and intelligent document search. These are things like insurance claims, loan processing, anything where there's lots of documents and you need to process them quickly to generate extractions and insights. I'll hop to intelligent search analytics. Think call center analytics. It's not just the transcript, but what was the tone of this call? At what point was the customer unhappy? At what point did the agent convert this to a good customer call? Those types of things, if you can get those at scale as opposed to having to post-process and analyze that transcript, it becomes much easier. Media analysis and kind of content discovery. That's another one. You have videos. Say you're an ad agency and you have hundreds of videos and you're looking for that one ad from 1984, that Christmas ad or that holiday ad, because you want to create a series of all the most amazing holiday ads. And you remember it had a penguin in it. How are you going to get that? Well, imagine if you could process all your content, get generalized output, and also specific output. So that way you can search right for those assets. And we'll hear a little bit more about that with Tyler's journey in AIR. And finally, agentic workflows. You know, agents are things that everyone is thinking about how they can use, how they can make their processes more efficient. If you think about BDA as the tool an agent calls. And now what you have is you have a single tool that handles all multimodal content, regardless of the modality. And you can set up your agentic workflows to use BDA as that tool. There's an MCP server available. You can use it today in this capacity. There's a few builder workshops happening later where you can kind of practice and see how that happens. Okay, one API is great, but how does that actually work? So essentially with BDA, it's quite simple. As part of the API call, you provide the asset. Along with that API call, you provide 2 things. You basically provide a project, which is where you specify exactly what you want. In it, you can include a schema. You can bring your own schema, or you can choose from options and standard output that we provide. Right? For every modality, it'll be slightly different because we've optimized it per modality. So for example, for documents, you'll have the choice of, do I want my output in plain text, HTML, Markdown? Because we know systems interpret and can perform differently. If you have a RAG system, some perform better with HTML, some perform better with Markdown. You can choose that output, not just get plain text. For videos and audio files, you can choose, do you want chapter summaries? What type of summarization do you want? Do you want to understand if there's content that should be moderated? You can kind of pick and toggle those. So there'll be a set of standard options where literally you just have to click. We've already have a default project set up if you don't want to make a choice. Or you can provide your custom blueprint. And imagine your blueprint is the schema you bring. You'll provide exactly what you want, what format you want it in, and we'll do that. You send it to BDA. BDA figures it out. It says, I wonder what asset this is. Let me figure that out. It's an image file, but it is actually a driver's license, which is a document. So I'm going to process it like a document. I see that they included a blueprint for driver's licenses, so I'm going to return all the information they want. I'm also going to give them the linearized output of that driver's license, so that way they can ingest it, and they always have auditability back. And that's it. And so that's how BDA works. I think it might be helpful to see an example. Nini, do you have one handy that you might be able to share? A little cheesy, but.
I think I just got the thing. It'll be good. And let's do a little bit of a demo. So how familiar, have you guys watched TikToks and Instagrams recently, or like Reels or anything like that? So you'll know that there are actually a lot of sponsored content, right? There are advertisements that's embedded directly in the content of the video in short form. So I'm just going to show you that video. And just think about, if you're managing a lot of different media assets, a lot of different short form content, long form content, et cetera, and you need to search for it, right? So that'll be the use case. I'm going to pause there and just show you the video. And the key here is just try to understand the context of the video. What are some ads maybe that you kind of sort of spot? And then I'll show you how BDA works with it.
Since having the baby. While the baby naps, I'm going to tidy up the house a little bit. She gets back, everything is clean, and you can feel at peace when she comes home.
Yes, I come with my own supply.
I never really heard the words I love you growing up, and I feel like it's a pretty synonymous experience among Asian culture. As an adult, I've realized that sometimes I love yous isn't said, it's served. Which is why making meals and cleaning as a host, as a guest, has always been part of my DNA. I think it's a balancing act because sometimes I feel like we lean too heavy on our words and forget to actually show up. So I'm learning to say those words out loud, accompanying with my acts of service so that my love could be heard and also felt. For me, again, because culturally it's just not practiced often, the saying is what's hard, but I'm slowly getting there. Trying to break those generational habits, choosing both the full plates, the affirmation, the clean house, the soft I'm proud of yous, the acts of service, the language of presence. I just want people to know my love in every form. What they see, what they hear, what they feel. And sometimes the loudest I love yous isn't just served, it's spoken. I know. Good news! Good news is Mommy's back! Toes look great! It's okay. Proud you took some of your time today, you deserved it.
Alrighty. So it's a video about helping a mother take care of their kids, right, while the mother goes out to get her nails done. And I'm going to bring you to the Bedrock data automation console. And you can actually get started super easy. You can go to try demo, and which we'll do in a second. We have some blueprints. There are things called projects. And we also have a sandbox where you can play with your RAG indexing, intelligent document processing, media analysis, audio. You can literally just go and try it out. But let's start with the demo. And then what I'm going to do is upload that same video that you guys just saw from my computer. I'm just going to click Choose File, and then select the video, and then go generate the results. And the key here is that it will take some time, but I'm going to show you standard output first. And what is standard output? It's just a standard set of things that you can directly get out of the box when you upload your video. And so sometimes your video can be a little bit long. It can be even 2 hours, right? So what we have here is we take the first 5 minutes and process that so that you know exactly what you're about to extract, right? And then you can extract longer because this can all be done through an API. So I fast forward a little bit. You'll see in standard output, these are some of the knobs. You got your summaries. You can look at the text. You can look at IAB taxonomies, content moderation. Here, I just chose the summaries, right, to just show like what are some of the rich summaries that you get. And remember, we're talking about a mother and her friend is taking care of the kid while the mother is out. And so you'll see that in the video summary. And this is, a lot of things that we talk about, like postpartum, like how to express love, right, is all in that summary you see. Then you have what we call chapters. There's 4 chapters in this video, and we just detected that out of the box. And these chapters, think of them as scenes. These scenes, I'll actually show you, right? So how do we even cut up, like, what is a scene? So in the first 20 seconds of the video is an intro. So I'll show you again when we scrub to the first 20 seconds. Right. So the woman here introduces the context, right? And then it shifts to the bathroom. So from 20-second to 1 minute and 10-second mark, she's in the location of the bathroom, right? And talking about the product. And then it shifts over to a laundry room. And in the bathroom and in the laundry room, she's using the Blue Land product, which is the embedded sponsored ad. And then the last one is when the mother comes back. So we detect all these key moments in short form right out of the box. Now, one thing that I've kind of noticed is, where is all the logos, right? So what you can do is you can just detect text in the video. As we see here, we have a bounding box on it, confidence score, and it'll just detect that out of the box. And remember, all of this you can still do with just the API as well. We have one unified API. Now, I also want to get the text transcript, right? The audio transcript right out, and then I also want to get IAB taxonomy. So how do I do that? Just click a few buttons. I'm going to create a new project, which is where you store these output configurations. In this case, a standard output configuration. And then I'm just going to call it my first project V1. And I'm going to speed this processing up a little bit. Usually takes about a minute. And then, right, we're getting the full audio transcript, and then IAB taxonomies, right? So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, right? We talked about parenting, family, talked about a few other things, right, that you detect for your advertisers. And then here's a full audio transcript. We also have speaker detection. So in this case, there was one speaker, but you can detect multiple speakers and then map that to the person that you want. So that's pretty much standard output. You can play with it yourselves at some point, and that gets you out of the box. But I actually want to go more specific. I actually don't like some of how verbose it was, right? I want to get more concise. I want smart tags. I want better summaries, right? So what I can do is create something called custom output and go to a blueprint. And I got started as simply as just clicking add field. And for the first one, I want my chapter summaries to be a lot more concise. I want the exact details, right? So I can say like, hey, let's do it for at least, I think in this example, 30 words, for example, but no more than 100 words, right? And then I just specify that with natural language. And then I want to get some chapter titles, because previously it was chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, right? Very generic. I want chapter titles, right? So I want to specify how that looks like, and I say the granularity is at the chapter level. And then I want to create some smart tags, right? Like here are tags that are easily searchable if I have a large media content library, right? So I say like these tags have to be very precise. They contain some marketing terms, right? That allows me to search more easily. And then I want this at the video level. I don't want this at the scene level. I can do that too, but I want this at the video level. And then finally, why don't we just wrap it up with just a summary field, right? I want my summaries to be a little bit more concise. I want them to be more, not a lot of repetition. I want it, right? And you can shape that basically as a prompt. So these natural language instructions for every field is how you would go about it. Great, so I've added everything and just, right, this is called a blueprint in custom output. And let's just call it the Blue Land demo, V1. I'm going to click Get Results. And then I'll fast forward a little bit, right? It takes some time to process, but you'll see some of the results, right? This exactly is the schema that you just custom built, basically, right? And then some of the smart tags that we see here are starting to just come out. You even have Blue Land in the smart tags. And this is all, again, I did nothing special here other than saying, like, give me some smart tags and some natural language instructions. With each of the chapters, you'll also notice that the timing was exactly the same as in standard output, so it is deterministic. We won't give you like different chapters all of a sudden. And then the other part is in the chapter titles, right? Now they're more specific to the actual chapters that we were talking about. And then we can look at the different chapter summaries. Great, so I just walked you through standard and custom output on Blueprint on Bedrock data automation. And so what did you have to do before to make this happen? So when I talk to customers, they've said that, hey, like previously I had to build my own MLP task-specific models to, maybe detect these certain objects or and stitch multiple models together, right, to make this work. So this is something you now no longer need to do with BDA. There's also, you have your videos. It contains both audio, text, and visual signals. There's a lot of things that happen, right, when we were talking about, hey, like, there was a scene in the bathroom and then in a laundry room, right? So before you could do that with the visual model, but on the audio side, you might miss the context. So what BDA does is we actually synthesize that together out of the box. There's also just summarizing the content. I know that is becoming easier and easier with LLMs, but you would have to just bolt that on and try to optimize that price performance, right? And then there's also all your different entities. There's detecting logos, detecting objects, detecting people, detecting scene mood. So there's a lot of things that you might want to detect as an entity in the actual video. And now this is something that you can do straight out of the box as well. And then finally, even if you got this beautiful, like, stitched together machine together, right? You got to orchestrate everything. You got to maintain it. You got to, right, there's going to be different models are going to come up with new features. So you're going to have to keep up with the API documentation on how that works. And you're going to have to keep balancing that price performance over time. Customers always want, right, they're going to want better costs, better accuracy, better performance, better latency. That is all something that you'll need to continuously balance. But with BDA, we manage that for you out of the box. And so just a quick summary, right? The development times of putting this together can take long. It can take a couple of months. And there's also a lot of maintenance that is required to keep this in shape. And then finally, there's just a lot of knowledge and context that you got to keep up with, right? The world is moving so fast these days that you'll have to, for every single new model or every single new feature that you're bolting on, you have to keep up with that. So what I just showed you in media also works for intelligent documents, document processing. So here I have an application package. It might contain a bank statement, W-2s. So we take that and split that out, and then we analyze each of those pieces. And as you saw, you define the type of output that you want, standard or custom. If you want some custom, same thing. You define your own schema, and then process it through BDA. So just to kind of summarize some of the key features. So number one, we have an intuitive system that allows you to just define your output, right? What is the type of output you want? If you really want to keep it simple, go to standard, and here are a set of knobs that you can select. Or you can bring your own schema, right? Bring your own and define it, right? And that can be done with natural language for each of those fields. The second part is the orchestration. So we're under the hood, we have our own task-specific models that we pre-optimized. We have FMs under the hood that are running and that we're constantly updating. So these are things that we're managing on your behalf now and making sure that it has the best price-performance balance. Then we have all the great stuff of AWS kind of baked in already. So KMS keys, private cloud, and also responsible AI. We want to make sure that a lot of the content that's being outputted actually has some confidence and grounding that you have. So we have confidence scores in what you saw with the bounding box. We actually ground it in the image. And we also have toxic content detection right out of the box as well. We're also integrated into the set of AWS services in Bedrock as well. So for example, with your knowledge base, if you're going to put in a lot of your documents into your knowledge base, you can use BDA, for example, as a parser to parse that content when you want to build it for your RAG applications. And then finally, it is a single API. Like all of this I just showed you was on the console, just so you can visualize, right? Like media is a very visual modality, so you can kind of see what's happening. But all of this, at the end of the day, can be done and should be done actually through the API. Now, there are other AI services in AWS that serves very specific use cases in IDP, in image analysis, in conversational analytics. And so, for example, if you want in documents, if you want to extract, just extract the linearized text, get the full blob of text out, then that's going. Texttract is kind of your way to go. If you're looking for image analysis, right, you have a lot of different things. We can detect live, if people are live in the image or not. So that's something that's best done with recognition. And then if you just want a great price-performant audio-to-speech model, an ASR model, then use transcribe. And actually, to really help with this, I actually like to play a game. And the game is this. I'm going to define the use cases. I'm going to give you some of the customer needs. And then you can just tell me which AWS service would best solve this need. So you can just shout out the answer. But of course, I will tell you the answer. So for the first one, right, if you want video understanding, multimodal, you want latency maybe in minutes, and you want a high degree of customization, and you have to take multiple audio, text, visual inputs, what is a service that would best work for this use case? I hear BDA. Okay, this is BDA, exactly. That should be the easy one to kick off with. Suppose you want to just stream transcription. You want really low latent transcription from audio to text. You want a high accuracy, not too much customization going on. And at the end of the day, it's audio-based. Which service would you like to use? Anybody? Okay, all right. It's transcribe. That would be the best one to use for that particular use case. Now, if you are detecting faces, if this is a live face, right, and you're trying to analyze that image, this has to be pretty accurate at millisecond latency, and then it is completely image-based. What would be the service to use? Okay, recognition, that's good. Insurance claims processing. You're okay with some minutes. There are a lot of contextual details in the claims processing. You want to customize it a lot, and generally you want some high accuracy. Which service would you use? So actually, this one is BDA. You can do all of that now with BDA. And if you just want in a piece of document to just get the blob of text out, right? You want to extract everything out. You want just basic OCR, and you want it very quickly at low latency, right? Which service would you use? Texttract. All right. Nice. So I'd love to welcome Tyler onto the stage here to talk a little bit more about his journey with AWS and AIR.
Thank you, Nini. Good morning. First of all, thank you all for kicking off your reInvent journey with us bright and early at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. I appreciate the full house here. My name is Tyler. I am the co-founder and CTO of a company called AIR, which I'll tell you all about in a second here. And we've been building on top of BDA for the last 6 months or so. And it's really changed the way we think about multimodal intelligence and information extraction. To give you a little bit of background on what we do at AIR, we are what we call a creative operations platform. That essentially means we help businesses manage all of their creative files and the work around them, images, videos, documents, whatever it is that they're working with. We manage about 8 petabytes of data across all of our customers today, hundreds of millions of individual assets. We work with about 100,000 creative professionals day to day, spread across 2,500 plus businesses. These are businesses like Sweetgreen and NBCU and JP Morgan and Graza, the olive oil company you might be familiar with. And so really wide set of use cases, a wide set of content types and file types, and we're really interested in providing rich experiences on top of that data set. We think about our product in two core ways. Asset management is the first. This is stuff you're used to getting from a cloud storage provider. It's storage, it's organization, it's search, all of which is made much more efficient with multimodal intelligent extraction. And we also think a lot about the creative work that happens on top of that content library. Things like giving feedback, making edits, and sharing content externally when it's ready to go. To make this a little more real, I'm going to give you a quick customer case study. How many of you are familiar with the Infatuation? Maybe you use them to look up a restaurant out here in Las Vegas this week. They started in New York City, but today they operate in cities around the globe. And they manage about 25 terabytes of creative content with AIR. We've been working with them since 2019, and a lot of the technologies that we use and the services that we provide have advanced over those years, but we've powered creative operations for the Infatuation for 5+ years. They have about 150 teammates spread across the globe, photographers, editors, designers, creative directors, and by their estimates, AIR is saving them about 4 hours a week for folks who are embedded in that creative work because of the functionality that we provide on top of their content library. We are an AWS shop through and through. We've been building with AWS since the beginning of our business in 2017. We use S3 to store and secure the original files that get uploaded to our system. And we use a slew of AWS services to process that media. We transcode every file into a lightweight, web-friendly copy for day-to-day use, downsizing images, transcribing videos, converting documents to PDFs for rendering. And we also, for a long time, have extracted information out of those files in order to provide end user experiences on top, like search, like tagging, like organization, reducing manual effort on behalf of our customers. But this has always been one of the big challenges of our business. Extracting AI-powered information from a large data set can be really hard, especially when we were first getting started as a company. Each file type has its specific nuances. There are different services or tools or ways that you think about extracting information from an image versus a video versus a document versus something else. The metadata that we get back from those services can often be fragmented or inconsistent. And you have to maintain a fairly complex orchestration system around each of those specific modalities. So you can see on the image on the right here, for each content type that gets uploaded, we were processing the file with AWS compute resources and then sending it to specific enrichment providers either on AWS or external third-party vendors. So at the beginning of this year, we set out to rethink the way that we'd architected this solution, and we wanted a solution that was simpler to maintain, easier to scale, really secure. This is obviously of the utmost importance to our customers. They want to know that the content that they upload to AIR is safe. It's not being shared with folks unintentionally or sold to third-party data providers. And we needed it to be cost effective. 8 petabytes of media, hundreds of millions of files. We want to be able to do this type of AI enrichment at scale without breaking the bank. So we went out and ran a search to try to find the right solution to solve this problem. And we wound up landing on Bedrock Data Automation, BDA. It checked all the boxes that we were looking for and then some. And I'll tell you a little bit about how it fit our use case specifically as we go here. But first of all, the simplicity, I think, was the big winner for us. Rather than maintaining those individual fragmented media pipelines for each type of content we were working with, we had a unified API for all modalities. It was also one shot. So if we had a file and we wanted to get 10 different pieces of information back about it. We could ask all of that in one go and wait for an asynchronous notification to come back saying that the media had been processed and all the metadata that we needed was there. And as Nini mentioned, it also abstracted away model selection from us, which was really massive. As you all know, this stuff is changing really quickly. Feels like every week there's a new advancement or change in the right model for the right job. And for us, we wanted to stay sort of 1 degree removed from that and focus on building end user experiences for our customers and not chasing the best model of the day. By being an AWS product, it was intrinsically more secure for us. We were able to manage all of this data and the transfer between services, all within our VPC hosted on AWS, so we could be confident that the data would never leave our infrastructure. And it was cost effective. As we ramped up the amount of media that we were processing with BDA, the economies of scale made sense for us, and we were able to provide this to just about all of our customers without increasing cost. Keeping data transfer between AWS products also meant that line item remained free as opposed to sending it to an external vendor and paying data transfer fees. A few of the other benefits, that we weren't necessarily looking for when we kicked off our search, but really stood out. There's tremendous range of file support with BDA, so we didn't have to do a lot of pre-processing to convert input files into an output format that BDA could accept. The custom blueprints, which I'll show in a demo in a sec here, were massive for us to be able to maintain a consistency of user experience. We wanted the metadata to come back in a certain shape or a certain way that was consistent with our product. And a few other benefits that really made BDA the standout solution for us. So I'm going to play a little demo video here to give you a sense of what this looks like in our product. So to start, we just drop in a file. This is the Air UI. The file uploads to S3 in a matter of seconds, and that now kicks off a series of asynchronous jobs in the background. The first thing we do is process the media. We produce little previews, the scrubbable preview you just saw, and then we transcode the video for playback. You'll see on the right side there, we're now processing some of the smart metadata. We use BDA to generate smart summaries of every asset, as well as smart tags. And these are customized and controlled to subscribe to a format that we want in our product. We use chapterization to pull out chapter titles and summaries, and transcription of the audio in the file as well. So 3 or 4 different types of extraction happening here, and all of that powers a really simple search experience. You're able to type in a natural language query and find the file and even the moment within that file that you're looking for. So all powered by BDA under the hood, and the output formats that we see here are customized to meet the experience that we're looking for. To give you a little peek under the hood of what implementation looked like for us when we were putting this together, it really is as simple as a single API call to BDA to create a new job. We pass it a reference to the S3 object that we're looking to process, and then a reference to the custom blueprints we want to use for this job. So those are the things that are defined in the BDA console that Nini demoed earlier, where you can specify the format or the schema or the structure of information that you want back. We kick off that job, and then we subscribe to an event bridge notification. When the job is finished processing, we receive a notification and then write the metadata wherever we need to write it. So super simple to kick off a job and then receive metadata back. And I know this is getting even simpler now as the BDA team moves to synchronous API calls for certain modalities as well. We've now deployed this offering across all of our customers. So about 2,500 paid customers are now using these services, as well as many of our free customers too. And it's been a massive win for both our engineering team who no longer has to manage the complexity of the fragmented pipelines across each modality. But it's also been a win for our customers. The graph on the right side here shows the number of jobs that are waiting to be picked up and processed in order to be enriched or to have metadata extracted and then appear in search results and see those summaries, those chapters in the UI. The number of waiting jobs has dropped to next to nothing because BDA is able to support the scale of uploads that we see at AIR. We regularly see hundreds of thousands of new files uploaded in a day, sometimes millions when we're onboarding a large new customer, and we're able to churn through processing that media very, very quickly. Since launching with BDA a couple months ago, we've processed about 15.5 million jobs. And at any given moment, we typically see about 160, approaching 200 running at a time. Most of them finish very fast, obviously, dependent on the type of file that you're processing or the size of the file. But for our use cases, this has been completely adequate to provide the type of customer experience that we're looking for. I do also want to call out that this has been a big team effort between my engineering team at AIR and the folks on the BDA team at AWS as well. Gaurav is our account manager, and he highlighted the sort of degree of collaboration that we saw with this effort, which was pretty special. Every day, we were in Slack together, incorporating their service into our product, finding bugs and reporting them, having them fix them, within hours or a day, and just the near real-time collaboration here was an absolute win, and I think personally something that surprised me when working with a company as large as AWS to see their ability to remain nimble and work with an early or growing startup like AIR was really, really impressive. I think this is hopefully just the beginning of our partnership with BDA and our multimodal journey as well. To give you some insight into some of the stuff that we're thinking about next. The first we've actually already launched, which is we're now taking all the metadata that we get back from BDA and creating vector embeddings of it to power a semantic search experience. You saw this briefly in the demo video we played, but you can just talk to AIR search, in plain text or plain language like you would a coworker. We create an embedding for that query and compare it to the embedding of the metadata that we get back from BDA for each of the files in your workspace. And that has been super easy to stand up on top of this multimodal infrastructure that we've just talked about. We're excited to switch over to synchronous data processing for some of our modalities like images as well, which will speed up processing time and reduce complexity even further. We are still in the process of consolidating some of our use cases over to BDA as well. So video transcription, which we saw in the product demo, is moving over to BDA shortly here too. One that I'm particularly excited about is exposing those custom blueprints to our end customers. We've gone ahead and set up requirements and said, hey, we'd like to keep summaries, less than 50 words, or we want 10 to 15 smart tags when you process an image. But you could imagine giving those keys to the customer themselves and saying, how would you like to understand the content that you're uploading to our product? And this is something that we're considering as a potential enterprise offering on top of our AI infrastructure. Continuing to scale this out to multiple regions to improve latency and reduce complexity. And I'm sure continuing to collaborate really tightly with the BDA team as we do all of the above. So hopefully this provides a little bit of insight for all of you as you think about how you might approach some of these challenges at your companies or your use cases. Looking back over the last 6 months, I think we've been really pleased with how easy it was to get all this functionality stood up and deployed across a really massive set of files across thousands of customers, and excited for what's to come next. So thank you so much. Got a few more?
Thank you, Tyler. And it has really been a great collaboration. I know we've been working so closely together, and it's funny, yesterday night, we were trying to get one of these demo videos up, and I'm like, Tyler, like I need this video. So it's actually been a very, very close collaboration. I want to talk about what's new and what's coming up. So it's funny, Tyler, that you mentioned synchronous image processing, because that's actually something we just launched last week. And so I'll go over each of the different modalities and some of the new stuff that we're coming up. So for documents, we've expanded across 5 different languages now, and that's going to be coming up as well for the other modalities. We've also added new file format support on documents. On video and images, on media in general, we've increased the image processing speed by about half, and then the synchronous API processing allows you to take your assets, right, put it in, and then you immediately get a result return. And that also helps you, especially with a lot of more responsive use cases, maybe for mobile. A sync API will allow you to do that a bit better. Also added a bunch more different formats, AVI, MVK, etc., so that you can actually go across the spectrum of your different assets and file formats and codecs and just natively process without having to reconvert or do any of the, take up any of the jobs to do it like that. On the speech side, so on the audio side, we have channel identification, and that allows you to also, detect those multiple speakers. I think earlier in the demo we showed one speaker, but you'll be able to detect multiple. And then that speaker diarization is along the same idea, right? That for turns of the conversation, you want to be able to detect those different speakers that are talking. And then we're going to expand it to all the major languages and more. There are also a few other things I just want to kind of preview with you guys. So number one, for documents, we understand that accuracy is actually a very big thing to unlock production, right? You want to get something past like 90% accuracy. So we're going to launch something that allows you to take your documents, label them with ground truth, and then optimize your blueprint so that you can achieve greater accuracy during runtime. There's also something that we're going to launch in terms of entities. So we understand that, hey, if you talk about different pronunciations, right, of words, sometimes they may show up differently in the transcript. So we're going to launch something that allows you to define what are the correct pronunciations, so that we'll detect that in your transcript and audio. And then finally, I talked about entities before, and we'll allow you to actually detect the entities that you want to detect. Any recognized people that would be pretty much impossible in public domain knowledge. And that is something that you can bring in terms of your own images of people that you want to recognize, and then supply that to BDA so that we'll detect it out of the box for you. And then just one final thing, we are going to expand the number of AWS regions we're going to cover. So we're going to be able to double that to 15 plus regions by the end of this year. So stay tuned. We got a lot of exciting updates that are going to be coming up soon. Thank you so much. I'm also going to suggest if you want to take any of these resources, go ahead. And one final tidbit, we actually have a builder session today at the Wynn. It's at the Promenade Lafayette 9 at 1 p.m. So Lafayette 9 at 1 p.m. Feel free to join us there. And we have a few more minutes, so we'll be off stage. Feel free to talk to us, and happy to share some additional thoughts. Thank you so much.